We'll begin our meeting with call to order, which I'm doing, and approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. Additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment. Public, you have 5 minutes to address the board. If you're one of the potential appointees, now would be the time to speak for any of the committees we have.
Mr. Chairman, I can't have 10 minutes.
No.
You can if you want to come back next Tuesday and do your other 5.
I'll limit it to real quick. My name is Kenny Price, and I am interested in the Agricultural Preservation Board, and specifically for the Natural Resource Conservation Interest opening. And I would appreciate your nomination, appreciate your vote on being on the board. Thank you.
Dan Weimer from Napoleon. I'm an applicant for one of the openings on the Solid Waste Management Planning Team. I think I have knowledge and experience and capabilities that can let me contribute significantly to that team. I have a degree in chemistry, so I can bring the perspective of a scientist. I have 30 years of leadership experience in business in the information technology industry. I led many projects and organizations inside the U.S. and in Europe. I also had responsibility for a time for systems and technology planning for a large portion of the company, so I've led development of strategic business plans. I understand how objectives and strategies and goals and initiatives and guiding principles and all those sorts of things interplay in planning. Pardon me, coming down with a cold. I've also led large projects that began with a decision-making process similar to what had to be done for solid waste planning for the county, where there were complex, large alternatives that had to be evaluated and selected from among, so I have experience in that as well. So would like to be able to contribute as a member of that community and would ask for your support.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lynn Elrod. I've been working in the industry of municipal solid waste and other power plants for the last 30 years. I feel I have a little insight on the problems of the municipal solid waste problems of Jackson County. I've been a resident since the day I was born in this county. I think I can give some insight and a little bit of knowledge that I've learned over the years. I've started up power plants. At one point, I was an employee of the Jackson County and the County Resource Recovery Facility. I helped start it up. I helped start up another incinerator in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Since that point, I've been involved in numerous projects throughout the United States and power plant industry, including the largest biomass power plant in the world. And I think I can contribute a lot of information and give some insight and make you think of what needs to be done and do some proper planning for the future of Jackson County. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Peg Clevenger. I'm a resident of Spring Arbor Township, and I'm here as a potential, as a candidate for the Solid Waste Management Planning Committee. I'm a lifelong resident of the county, and we're business owners for our entire career here in Jackson County, so I bring a perspective of average person to the committee. I have a background, my degree was in political science, not that that matters, but my background is in community nonprofit organizations, the business owning. I've done a lot of work with the Falling Waters Trail, so I understand the community well. I've worked for a nonprofit and understand grant writing and all of the issues that might be important in this as we try to figure out what's going to work the best for Jackson County. I understand budgeting, and I have done a lot of research on the issue for Spring Arbor Township when we had a ad hoc committee that was formed recently to look into the issue. So I would ask for your support for this committee. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none. We'll move on to appointments. We'll take the easy round first. It looks like that we had, up until this morning, no other applicants for, unless I've missed one, the Emergency Management Advisory Council nor the Ag Preservation Board, but Kenny Price just expressed an interest in the, I believe, the Agricultural Interest Member. Are there any other applicants that I missed anybody's aware of for that? Dave?
I'll nominate Kenny Price for the Natural Resources position.
And that would be for the first position there, Dave? Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. The other position on that board and the two positions on the Emergency Management Advisory Council will carry on, and I assume we'll continue to advertise or try and seek out applicants for them. Okay. Now the toughie is the long list for the Solid Waste Planning Committee, which is 14 members. There were a total of 34 early applicants, I think 36 in all. By the time we got our updates, there were a couple of late additions. I'm not sure if everybody's got them, but Jack Ripstra would be one late addition that we believe would fall under the number 8 category of general public, and also Peter Bormuth, which we believe would fall under the same category. Are there any other additions that any commissioners are aware of, or the administrator? Okay. We will fill these from the top. One clarification question, Mike, are you aware if we had anybody apply for the number 2 spot, which would be industrial waste generator, Mr. Chairman?
I have spoken with 3 or 4. I was hoping one of them would apply late. They didn't. I'm going to get with the enterprise group and have a discussion with them on who a possible representative would be from there and have them pull their membership.
Okay, so we'll just leave that one vacant then. So moving right from the top, the first round, I think all the names are listed here. Maybe David Emmons didn't make it onto that printed list if he had the list from the county, but he's one whose application made it in. So we're looking for 4 positions to fill on that, and I'm opening it up for nominations.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Go ahead.
Charles Dunnigan.
Okay. I think we should, maybe to make it easier, see how many nominations we get for the 4 spots. Is it 4 for this one?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll nominate David Emmons.
Jason Karpinski.
I'd nominate Tanya Olson.
Okay, if the clerk can read off the names that we have again so far, we have, you get them all?
I think so. Okay, I have Charles Dunnigan, David Emmons, David Karpinski, and Tanya Olson.
Okay, be Jason Karpinski.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Jason.
Okay, are there any other nominations for those 4 slots? Okay, hearing none, that makes it easy. All those in favor of these 4 nominations for these 4 spots? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we have the first 4 names to forward to the Board of Commissioners. Moving down to spot number 3, which are environmental interest groups. We have 2 applicants that I'm aware of, Peggy Clevenger and Mark Muhick. Anybody else in those?
I'd make a motion to move those 2 names to the full board. Support.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Spot number 4, county government. The applicant is Chairman Shotwell.
Name to the board.
Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Spot spot number 5, we have 2 names, Wendy Chamberlain and Dan Weimer.
I would like to nominate Wendy Chamberlain.
Okay,
I'll nominate Dan Weimer.
okay, we'll have a roll call. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Lechka?
Weimer.
Commissioner Alexander?
Weimer.
Commissioner Leitner? Chairman Elwell?
Weimer.
3-1.
3-1, Dan Weimer's name will be forwarded to the full board. Number 6 is a 1 representative from city government. Derek Dobies is the only name that we have.
I would move Councilman Doby's name to the full board, please.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. 1 representative from solid waste, which would be Region 2, and it's Phil Duckham. And if I could have a
I'll
motion.
move Commissioner Duckham's name to the full board, please.
Support.
Motion and support. Other names? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. 3 reps from the general public, and you have the list of names with the 2 late additions. Taking nominations.
I would nominate Jack Ripster, please.
I'll nominate Glenn Remington.
I'd like to nominate Jeff Snyder.
Okay, any other nominations? Hearing none, 3 nominations, 3 reps. All those in favor, Dave?
I would nominate Elrod.
Okay. Okay, we have 4 names for 3 spots. The clerk will call the roll.
So do we just say all
Yeah,
3?
no, we'll
You
vote
want
one
us
at a
to do-
time, I think, and fill the votes right down the line, one at a time. I think makes the most sense.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll end up with a high vote getter in the first round, too.
Commissioner Lechka?
Remington.
Commissioner Alexander?
Remington.
Commissioner Leitner?
Remington.
Chairman Elwell?
Remington. Okay, first spot's filled. Glenn Remington. Going to the second round.
Commissioner Lechka?
Elrod.
Commissioner Alexander?
Snyder.
Commissioner Leitner?
Snyder.
Chairman Elwell?
Snyder. Moving on to the third spot.
Commissioner Lechka?
Elrod.
Commissioner Alexander?
Ripstra.
Commissioner Leitner?
Ripstra.
Chairman Elwell?
Ripstra. Okay, it looks like the 3 names that will be forwarded to the full board are Glenn Remington, Jeff Snyder, and Jack Ripstra. And then we have 1 representative from Industrial Waste Generator that we'll have to fill at a later time. Okay, I believe that's it on appointments. Moving on to the Airport MDOT grant to fund the Eaton Aeroquip easement cost. Anybody here from the airport, Mike, or not? No. Okay, we all have the board packet information with the fairly succinct memo on the requested resolution and sponsor contract. If anybody has any questions on it, I bet Mike can answer them, and if not, we'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move to forward this, let's see.
Yeah, it's a huge amount, so it goes full
Forward
board.
this to the full board with a recommendation for approval.
Support.
Motion and support. Questions or comments? Mike, did you have any comments or no? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, the second thing is the restrictive covenant on the airport property at Boardman and Airport Road. Again, you have the board packets there. It's related to, I think, an old gas spill from Amoco. Don't anticipate any problem with it, but they want the restrictive covenant. So we'd be looking to move that also. Questions or comments, and if not, if we can have a motion?
Move to approve the covenant.
Support.
Motion and support. Mike, any comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Moving down to JC Dot. We have at least one rep here. Somebody going to address this? Or get bridge design proposal.
Newsflash, Jefferson Road is not closed today, it's open.
Thank you for that public service announcement, Joe. And I'm sure Greg O'Connor.
The rain washed the boys out. We'll be back out there tomorrow, so. We were taking some RFPs for some bridge design work for Warner Road, Cross Road, and the Hague Road bridges. We sent out some proposals to 5 consultants. We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting a couple of weeks after that, so if you didn't show up, we weren't going to accept your proposal. So 4 out of the 5 did show up. And of those 4, 3 submitted proposals, and I have that chart there that was an attachment to the document. And we would like to award that contract to Brechting Bridge and Engineering. They're out of Spring Lake. They're currently doing a bridge in Calhoun County. They're 23-mile road right now, and so they've done a lot of bridges over the years. We've worked with them in the past, and we would like to recommend them to do this work for us. And they have a pretty respectable rate per hour there, and we'd like to get going and get them the notice to proceed so we can meet those guidelines that we're looking for and get those bridges going.
Questions from commissioners? Hearing none, a motion's in order.
So moved.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Joe.
Welcome.
Okay, we have the Conservation District Biannual Report, and I see somebody rising from the audience. You're supposed to get the high fives when you're all done if it's good.
Yeah, I know. I really should have waited. My name is Lori Fitzgibbons from the Jackson County Conservation District, for those of you who don't know me. You all should have my report. I don't want to read it word for word to let you know what we've been doing, but I will highlight some of the things that I think are important. Our tree sale this past year, sales went up this year, and I believe that's in part to a nice little article we got in the paper from our good friend back here, Lisa. She's been giving us a lot of press, and it's really been helping us in a lot of our sales, and we really appreciate that. Sales were up, the numbers were up, but we had to replenish a lot of product supplies, so our profit is pretty similar to last year, so we're hoping to increase that this year also. Native plant sale is never a big money maker for us, but it's a service that we like to offer the community. Next year we're talking about a partnership with the Men's Garden Club, Master Gardeners and everything, and doing one big one over at the fairgrounds, so we have a meeting coming up about that. Our no-till grass grain drill, as Dave knows, needs some repair work. We are working on that right now to get it all fixed up. We had a guy take it last week and do some repairs for us, and we let him rent the drill. He did more repairs than he owed us, and then he gave us the rest as a donation. So that was very nice. And then we have a board member who works in a machine shop, and he's doing the rest of the work. His boss is letting him do a lot of the work on it for a donation also. So that's very helpful. Our annual meeting banquet, we had a good turnout this year. We had the director of the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development was a speaker. Jim Spink was voted in for another 4-year term. Our Adopt a Stream program is still going strong. This past year in January, we had a record number of volunteers. We had over 50 volunteers show up, which is huge. We had to borrow equipment from another conservation district to accommodate all the volunteers we had, so it was a great success. We have another stream collection date the end of September. We're trying a Sunday this year, Sunday, September 29th. Project Red, I took a bigger part in Project Red this year. I was a teacher contact, and I picked up the milk, and the conservation district always takes care of recycling all the milk cartons and stuff like that. So we did the normal little festivals, the Earth Day, Learning Fair, Bloomsburg's Butterflies, Jackson County Fair, the sprayer clinic. We had about 125 people show up for that. We've been doing some presentations. We did a gardens group, university women's group, and then we did an invasive species workshop this year prior to our native plant sale. We've had a lot of, like I said before, we had a lot of volunteers this year. We've had 21 volunteers, spent a total of 207 hours for our tree sales. That's significant. We couldn't do it without the volunteers. Adopt a Highway, we're still struggling on getting volunteers. We had 3 or 4 volunteers come out in July. We went out early, but it was 95 degrees by 10 o'clock, and we all thought we were going to die, literally, so we had to end it. It was dangerous. I thought I was going to die. Obviously, thankfully, I'm still alive. So we're always looking for volunteers. If any of you would like to join us, it'd look great to voters. Another Adopt a Stream coming up, and Bug ID Night. After we collect the bugs, we have to ID them. So that will be a couple weeks after, I think it's October, I can't remember. I might have it later in my report. But I think most of you know by IDing the bugs that we find in the water, we can tell how healthy the stream is. So that's why we have to do that. That's just a couple nights. And that we only had 3 volunteers on our last bug ID, which makes things go a little bit slower, but it's still a good time. We did a Grand River cleanup in July with the Upper Grand River Watershed Alliance. We also partnered with Hillsdale Conservation District and did another one a couple weeks ago. Myself and another Conservation District employee are going to the Grand River Environmental Action Team cleanup this Saturday, and then we are sponsoring one in October also. So that's 4 cleanups of the Grand River just this summer. Grant administration, right now we have 4 grants. We are in the process of, we have 1 position open still for our CTI technician who works with our NRCS. We have interviews are planned. We have 2 interviews this coming Friday. So hopefully we'll have that position filled for October 1st. Our Hunter Access Program grant, we still do have it. We did lose North Concord Farms, pulled out of that. They had 300 acres that they pulled out because they said they were having issues with their neighbors and they didn't want to make their neighbors mad. But we did get another farm in northern Jackson County. Actually, it's right on Baseline Road, so half of our property is in Ingham and half of it is in Jackson, and I took over that property, so we got another 300. So we replaced the 300 with 300, so we still got that grant. We are finishing up one of our river monitoring grants, and we started a big one, a bacteria reduction project in January. And Candace Carl is our watershed project manager. She's finishing up the river monitoring grant, she's doing the bacteria reduction grant, and she's also our Adopt a Stream project coordinator right now. Some upcoming events, I taught River Cleanup, Jackson County Farm Fest, Adopt a Highway, September 22nd, Adopt a Stream, Bug ID. We're having a Make Your Own Rain Barrel workshop in October. Another Grand River Cleanup. We're starting to plan the annual dinner, which is January 28th this year, and we have a Scott Reynolds from Environmental Canine Services has an E. coli sniffing dog that we're actually using as part of our bacteria reduction program grant. He's going to bring his dog, and he's going to be our speaker for the evening. And spring tree sale, I've already ordered trees, and I've got that going already. Some potential projects, we are working with Potawatomi, RC&D, Watershed Alliance, ASTI Environmental, Jackson County Parks to partner to acquire a grant to restore the shoreline and improve fisheries at the county park at Clark Lake. Proposals for that were due last week, so we're waiting to hear on that, but it probably won't be until spring. We're also working with DEQ. We'd like to do a countywide tire collection day, and DEQ has grants available for that. Hillsdale County did it, and they received like a $10,000 grant and had so many tires that they had to find, the DEQ actually found them $36,000 extra to help them take care of the tires that they got. So one of our board members just happens to be an employee of the DEQ, so he's going to help us try to get a grant. As we clean the rivers and see the hundreds of tires in the rivers, people think that that is their dumping ground, so we thought that that would be a good idea for that. And we're also working on some educational grants from our Potawatomi, RC&D. We're looking into invasive species removal grants with, we have a partner from MSU. And Recycling Jackson, we're trying to partner more with them, get our name on things, and send more volunteers to help them to get our name out there. So, do we have any questions?
On the river cleanup that you're involved in, it was explained that you can't pull stuff from the bottom because that disturbs the sediment. But are you able to clear trees out of the way so the river can become more navigable for people who want to kayak and canoe?
I don't do that, but Great usually does it a couple times a year. For their paddles, I know they have so many, Kenny can attest to this more than I can, but they, I know him and a few other people take their chainsaws down. They have a paddle at once a month, and I know they do travel the river to make sure they can get down it and do little sweeps with their chainsaws for that.
Dave?
Just a comment on Project Red. Lori did a fantastic job of getting teachers together, and we ended up with a couple hundred more students than normal. And a Conservation District does a great job with Project Red.
Thank you.
Other questions? Steve?
What is your relationship with Potawatomi Trail now that they're not federally funded? And are they able to assist the Conservation District? And are you getting good support with them?
Actually, for a while after it made the switch, things kind of slowed down. It was hard to get a hold of people. It was hard to stay in the loop. We weren't getting a lot of emails. That's all changing. They're trying to revamp the whole thing. And the guy, Ed McLatcher, who is in charge of that, actually is my daughter's softball coach right now. So that helps the communication there. But he's been contacting me now saying we have this available, and this available. Because for a while, you know, we just didn't have that communication, and we kind of just thought it was kind of going away. But I guess they're doing better, and they are trying to keep us in the loop now. So we do have a couple opportunities there.
Okay, thank you for the fine report.
Thank you.
High fives now.
Excuse me?
High fives now.
High fives.
Yeah, with Lisa.
Good morning, Sarah Hoditz with the front of the court. I wanted to focus this quarterly report more on the customer service aspect of our office and what we're doing to make improvements. So some of the information is different from what I typically report for you. For the past 7 months, we've achieved and surpassed our customer service goal for our main phone line of having an average hold time of less than 2 minutes. That's something that we've been working on for the last 5 years on accomplishing. So our customer service reps are very proud of the fact that for the last 7 months, they've been consistently below 2 minutes for the average hold time. And I did attach for you a graph showing the average hold times for the last 7 months. And some of the information with that, you can see under the month, you'll see the actual total number of phone calls that were received during that month. And we averaged just over 2,600 phone calls coming into that main line a month. And we have 5.5 full-time staff that are in charge of those phone calls, as well as any walk-in traffic that come into the office, taking payments, those types of things. So they've been working very hard on making sure that our clients are not having to wait on hold and give up, not take the phone call, those types of things. We are looking at making improvements additionally with the main phone line in allowing for an opportunity for clients to simply press a button and leave a voicemail. So if they don't want to wait on hold or don't want to talk to a live person necessarily, and they just want to report their employer or report information, they can simply do that to allow for quicker access to our office. Appointments are available within 1 week, and conciliations are scheduled within 2 weeks, and that's to give the clients opportunity to get their attorneys, things like that, in line. So typically we would be able to schedule them sooner, but with the attorneys and everything else, it seems that 2 weeks is an appropriate time for those. Our management team is also focusing on continued customer improvement, so we are looking at a possible reorganization or restructuring of our casework load. We've run the numbers again, and our case load is approximately 15,000 cases, and it appears that the alpha split that we currently go by is imbalanced, so we may be looking at making some changes there, as well as possible specialization in some areas so that we can offer more expert control over some of the options that we have, like support reviews and parenting time enforcement, so those can be processed more quickly. Our state arrears discharge project, and I know I've spoken to you last quarter about the launching of that project, that is underway. We currently have done some outreach with clients that are in prison, because most of those individuals are not able to pay their support because they are incarcerated. And it's just in those clients, it's approximately $2 million in state arrears that are uncollectible. 47 cases have been processed through that outreach effort, and a total of $344,000 has been discharged. So that's a huge chunk of money that's been discharged off of our books. We have 182 cases that are back and pending review. We have not had an opportunity to get through them yet. They've just been slowly filtering in. And we're going to be looking at getting a special team together to process those and get them going. Our current outreach efforts are for clients with out-of-state bench warrants, or they live out of state and have a warrant. So we're sending out letters notifying them of the project and what they can have as far as their services. And we're slowly filtering those back in as well. But we could have a potential of $1.3 million in arrears that are off our books if all of the packets come back and they are eligible. So that's great news for a lot of our clients. The third wave of the outreach is going to be clients that live in-state and have active warrants. Because again, typically this project is designed for clients that cannot pay their child support. Generally speaking, they have a warrant if they're not paying their child support. So that's where we're looking at for our outreach efforts for our clients. Final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is our work environment improvement efforts. Our office has taken the last 2 surveys that the county provided for us, and we've been focusing on increasing our numbers and improving the work environment. After our in-house training and retreat, we identified flexibility in the schedules and accountability as our main focus, that our office needs to improve our work environment, and so that's been our focus, to try to improve some flexibility for doctor's appointments, things like that, so that our staff can have a little more flexibility in that, as well as we're going to be looking at making some adjustments to our core work schedules. We currently have 2 shifts to allow for non-traditional work hours to help our clients have access to our office, but it's creating an impact on our work environment, so we want to look at options to allow for those non-traditional hours so that clients can still have access to our office, not from 8 to 5, but non-traditional hours, and still be workable for our staff as well. Any questions?
Mike, you had a question.
Could you explain for the board why removing all those clients, those unpaid things, are good for both the client and the county?
Sure. Well, from a client perspective, it's great to not have those arrears on the books because it's defeating for the parent that has those arrears on the books that they can't ever pay that. It's a black eye. It's you know, it's a sore subject. And then from the custodial parent's standpoint, it's money that's on there that they're not going to get. And so it further creates conflict between the two parents. From a funding standpoint, those arrears on our books affect our federal incentives. So arrears that we cannot collect count against us on our incentives, and then it reduces the amount of funding that we can have. So it's a twofold improvement from the clients and their relationship as well as from our funding.
Other questions? Dave?
Your last chart that you have in here, the average hold time, does this mean your goal is 2 minutes, but you're always under the goal, so you're better than your goal?
Right, correct. And that was a big excitement and accomplishment for our office because it took us 5 years to get it down there. So,
Julie?
Are the arrears ever attached to a credit report?
yes, all arrears that are, I believe it's over $500. I'd have to double check, but it gets submitted to the 3 major credit reporting agencies.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Parks Ad Hoc Committee creation. And we're looking, it's a pretty detailed letter that Brandon has given us, and I see him appearing before our eyes. So go right ahead, Brandon.
Good morning. Yeah, you have some background information. The Parks Board, at their last month's meeting, forwarded a request to the BOC to form a ad hoc committee to look at the funding options for the Cascades project. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, questions or comments? Okay, so we're just looking to forward the request onto the full board for the establishment of this committee. Ad hoc, the appointments, it would be at the discretion of the chair, correct? Is there something else, Mike? Or?
No, I was just thinking probably.
Oh, next month you're thinking? Okay, very good. Brandon, thank you.
Okay.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Fair update. You're still here. That's good.
I am still here. Denise is going to join me up here. So I just want to take a few minutes of your time, update you on the 2013 County Fair. It was a good year, very good year for us at the fair. Had a lot of great things going on. And so we'll just hit a couple of the highlights. We had tremendous weather. If you recall, last year's weather was less than perfect. We had some hot, humid conditions to start the week, and then Thursday morning the skies opened up, and they stayed open until about Sunday noon. So we lost really about 2 days, 2 of our best days we lost last year. This year, fortunately, was quite the opposite. We had great weather all week. We did have a little bit of rain on Wednesday, but it did not really hamper things. And numbers are good across the board. So we have some pictures, give you a flavor of what went on at the fair. So you see some busy midways there, and all in all, some happy customers. We have some free shows that we offer at the fair if you didn't make it down there. This year, our big free show was the Bruno's Tigers. You may have saw a little article in the paper about, you know, how the Bruno showed up and said, is there livestock in this area? And we were setting them up between the draft horse barn and the birthing barn. And we said, well, yes, there will be. And so we had to make some accommodations, but you know, that's how you have to do things at the fair. You have to think on the fly. And our staff did a great job of making some accommodations and put up some screening and park the trucks just so that we could go on without a hitch. So very well received show, standing room only, virtually every show that Bruno did, and heard great comments from the folks. Down in the lower right, you see our pedal pullers, which is real popular with the kids. There's this couple that comes in, and they have the semi truck going, but they have a John Deere tractor and all different kinds for the different age groups. Very good draw this year with the better weather for the tractor or the pedal pullers. So our grandstand shows on Sunday night, Monday night, featured DeMan Perry and Godsmack, and I just want to say thank you to the Fair Board for really stepping into the next grade of entertainment, if you will, because as far as sticking their necks out there and making an investment, really paid off. You see, this is I believe that's Bam Perry on stage here, and so you see, we set up several thousand chairs on the track, and then I proceeded to watch everybody just stand up. So it's kind of wasted effort on my part and our staff's part. But, that being said, 2 great nights of entertainment. We were happy to get to Tuesday morning and still be walking and continue on with the rest of the fair, because that was, we came out of the chute guns a-blazing, to say the least. So here's a picture of Godsmack. You'll notice there were no chairs. With that type of concert, it's just customary not to put up chairs, which I was happy about. 2,000 less chairs I had to set up. So it was a very good night, and both these entertainment items worked out very well for us this year at the fair. So this is a picture of Denise on the bull, so I will let her take it over from here.
Yep, and I'm just now walking, as you can see, at the time I grew a mustache. No, this was a banner year for us. We accomplished a lot of things, and of course, the one piece being Mother Nature, we couldn't control, but I said enough bad things to her last year that she was scared and just really came out with great weather for us. How are you clicking that to the next one? Oh. We always, we have a couple of standard shows we bring back, it seems like, for the last number of years, and they're hugely attended every year, this being one of them, the Demolition Derby and Enduro Racing. Great crowds. What is more fun than watching people crash up? We all do it on the highway, we hate to see it, but here we can all laugh and woo, they're all having a good time. And we're getting more and more local drivers involved, which really is upping our local folks coming in to see those people. And if I had better pictures in the stand, actually we have a number of local groups that come in and they all wear the same color t-shirt, so you can really see where that local folks are. This is one of our biggest accomplishments this year. This is the addition to the birthing barn. With the help, great generosity of AT&T and the Albion Ethanol and Albion Grain were our permanent sponsors of that building. We will be continuing on that for next year with any other little changes we may make there. But this attraction, if you haven't been to the fair, which I'm sure you all have, the birthing barn is the most traveled site that you can see. And this year we were lucky enough to have a baby calf. We had tons of baby pigs. I mean, pigs are shooting out everywhere. We had lots of pigs and ducks, but when we had a baby calf, it's a great thing, and that's the new addition. Actually housed our heifer and made the viewing of the baby calf available for a lot more people all at the same time. So a lot of excited people to see that. This is just showing our and those are 2 permanent signs that sit above and on the bottom of the birthing barn sign. As you can see there, our attendance, 42% increase for last year. I mean, hey, we couldn't believe it when the final numbers came in. Anytime we're over 220,000 people, which 200,000 plus are good years, but this year we were 224,740, I think is the exact number. But again, it was a great increase. But what we really can measure that we are growing is our exhibits were up too. Almost in all of our areas, our exhibits were up. So more and more people are coming back and they're participating and they're taking ownership of the fair. And that is really, what makes us successful. But regarding our 2 shows, we brought in a lot of new people to Jackson County this year. A lot of people that the most common statement is, it is so clean, and so beautiful with the flowers. We pride ourselves in being a very clean fair. I think that is the #1 issue people expect to see. When you have a traveling carnival, there's always that little bit of anxiety in regards to what you see. But our carnival company, the people are all uniformed and they pride themselves in keeping their work areas clean too. But our people who, they're high-paid individuals for some of those jobs out there. So what they do for minimum wage, it's because they take ownership. Most of our employees are 10, 20, and 30-year employees. So these are people that aren't there because of the money. They're there because they love the fair. And when they hear how many newcomers come and how beautiful our fairgrounds is, it just makes it even, better for them. I think Brendan already touched on our Tiger Show, but also one of the additions this year was the addition to the ice cream parlor, which the Dairy Association brought a new serving window, which helped in the lines this year. We're gonna have little bit changes every year, but this was a very positive change. Who doesn't like ice cream? So that was another of the increases. Every year we have a little bit of a goal to what we can tweak, and I think we did a great job this year, and of course it's because we have such a great team. Couldn't even begin to do the fair without people that really love it and want to spend the 118, 120 hours that week. So, and I have my voice back. It didn't, it's a long week, but I tell you, we gear up for it, and it takes, a good 11 and a half months to get ready for it. So, any questions from you or Brandon? Of course, this is Brandon's last year, so he went out with a big hurrah as far as I'm concerned.
Julie.
Thank you. This year you implemented a reduced gate honoring the veterans. I was wondering if you could give us some insight as to how that went.
Sure. Unfortunately, the only rain day we had, or rain morning, was on our Veterans Day. We had approximately 100 veterans come through the gate and take us up on that promotional offer. So it wasn't real big in numbers, but the show that we had on the small stage, or the program we did, we had some great folks come in from a number of different areas that offered some great information for our seniors. Not as well attended, but it was pouring down rain. I think we step back, we take a look at how we're going to tweak things for next year. Dave Wellinghan, I think, felt that it was a success, and I think that I can probably lean on him again for next year to maybe make a few improvements on one, like it was said to me, getting the word out a little bit more too, so find different ways to market that a little bit.
Dave.
Just a comment. I worked several of the shows, but the demolition, the Euro race, if you've never been there, one guy flipped his car completely over, and then they pushed it back on its wheels, and he ended up winning. And the stands went nuts when they put the car back on the thing. People love it, and it's a good show and a lot of fun. And thank you to both of you for all the hard work and the good job you do.
Thank you.
Any other?
I will say real quick, though, I didn't mention we did have some new promotions this year other than the Veterans Day. We actually offered a discount on our ride bracelet days, which we call our POP days, pay one price. Myers partnered with us, and we had a $3 discount right up until the day before fair started that you could buy those vouchers. It was a big success, and I believe Myers will step in and do the same thing again next year. It's a great way to early budget your money. They went on sale in June, and you could buy them right up until fair time, so we had a lot of the vouchers come through. In the $2 Tuesday, which, again, was something new to us, but was very, very well received. And we had $2 specials at the gate, at the food stations, at some of the retail areas, and the rides. So that was another way that people, in a lot of parents, thanked a number of the fair staff for having some of those things come through, so that they could bring their families not once, but more than once to the fair, and that's what you like to see.
Very good, Denise. Thanks for your hard work, and Brandon, you too.
Thank you.
Enterprise Group. I see Tim, Amy, and Deb all here.
Good morning. Tim Rogers from the Enterprise Group, and my brain trust is behind me, so most of the questions, I think, if I can't answer, they'll be able to. One of the things that we typically do every month is we supply you with the scorecard, and we give you a web link to it, which is a good summary of all of our activity. But this month, we thought maybe we'd walk you through some of the highlights of what's happened this year to date. And what I'm going to do is give you a summary of the numbers, but I think more importantly what we want to do is show you some of the projects that have taken place this year. And what you're going to see is the importance of retention and expansion to economic development. Everybody talks about chasing the next big factory, and frankly there aren't many of those out there, and we do our part to market the county and all the assets we have. but we do, so far this year, we've done over 110 retention calls. And I think that's the most important thing, is talking to our business people, seeing what their challenges are, seeing what we can do to help them. And so we want to walk through some of those with you this morning. A couple of the more notable ones, you probably all know or read or even driven by Mackey. These two projects, Mackey and Technique, I think are pretty indicative of what a lot of times people don't understand the process, how long the process takes. The EG staff started working with Mackey and DEQ over almost a year and a half ago on wetlands issues out in that industrial park to be able to resolve those issues, make sure mitigation is taking place so that they could actually do the expansion out there. That started with 50,000 square feet last year, and the way Mackey works, they're kind of a low-key type company. We drive by it almost once a week, if not more often than that, and I saw footings going in and they still hadn't announced they were doing their project. It's really important when you recognize the character of a company that you don't jump the gun. We knew we were in competition with Atlanta for this project, and so we were in touch with them almost at least once a month, if not more, about the status of the project and how we were going to compete for it. And when they finally did announce it, everything I think was done in ground except for the steel. But that's a significant expansion of over 200,000 square feet. Mackey now has 1 million square feet under roof at that facility, which is a huge investment for our community. Technique's another really good example. They're moving from the Mycor Industrial Park out to Blackman Township. I know this is a project that Amy worked on for at least a couple of years. Again, some of the issues driven by DEQ and the fact that Grand River runs behind Technique's property. They had been trying to expand at their current location for quite some time, and in fact then bought a couple other facilities in Mycor. When we finally did get the opportunity to sit down and talk with them earlier this spring, it was one of those issues which I'm going to refer this to later on when we talk about the 5-year strategic plan. But it was one of those issues that, okay, now we've decided we have to do something right now. They actually called us and told us that they had made an offer on a building outside of Jackson County, which had been sold the day or two before. And so at that point they said, we need to move, and we need to move right now, and we need to know where there's a place in Jackson County to do that. So the Technique facility is underway. The steel's gone up in the last week. We have had a lot of good partnerships with consumers on this project because we had to do moving some high voltage lines across the middle of that site so they could use that site the way they needed for the footprint of their building. So we want to thank consumers for that. And I'm going to walk through all of these. Now, some of them we've had more involvement in than with others, but we've touched all these projects over the past several months, if not over the past year. These two are probably the most significant. Eden Hydraulics and Diversified Engineering were both tax abatement projects. One of the things that our staff does, because of the way state law works and when those tax abatements have to be reported, we do a lot of work with our units of local government and with our industry to make sure that that paperwork's all done on time. We're coming up on that deadline for this year right now, which is in October, and people tend to forget about that paperwork that needs to get turned in so that they qualify for those tax abatements. Our staff does a lot of hand-holding with units of local government and with industry to make sure that those projects get the paperwork completed so that they actually can take advantage of those abatements. Lematic and molded magnesium, another couple examples. And I think what you see here is when you look at the numbers, it's not always the jobs. What we're starting to see is a trend over the last year to year and a half where industry now is starting to reinvest in itself, and probably from the technology standpoint, it may create a few jobs for some of these projects, but more importantly, it's making these companies more efficient so that they can actually compete when they have those opportunities to provide new products. Great Lakes Metal Finishing, Castor Concepts. Castor Concepts is another good example. We have a procurement and technical assistance group inside the enterprise group. They've done a lot of work with the Defense Department on providing casters for a number of different applications with the Navy, Army. Our staff works with them to make sure that they can be a premier bidder for those projects. And Alro Plastics is another one of those opportunities. We all know how successful Alro is, and we do everything we can to help them grow and expand here. And they've done not only this, but they did Alro Riverside, which was a project they did in conjunction with Miller Tool. So wanted to give you an update on those. The brownfield projects, because we staff the Jackson County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, are a couple of interesting. Clavons is one I know. So many people would drive by that site and go, God, the building's still there, the building's still there, the building's still there. That's underway, that building's gone, the footings are in, the ground plumbing's in, so it's an interesting project. I know a lot of people on that side of the community are interested in seeing that project up and going. The General Products facility is one of those that we know we've all had a challenge with some brownfield issues. We have a client that is close to closing on that property. They've actually been allowed access to start doing some cleanup to it and moving some product in there. So you'll see a lot more activity going around General Products. We think that's a great movement. That's a project and a building that's been sitting there underutilized for quite some time. So we're really happy to see that it's a local company that's doing an expansion, looking at that piece of property, and hopefully it's going to close on that in the very, very near future. A couple other brownfield type projects. Acme site redevelopment in Zorman-Clark, which you know is a neighbor to the fairgrounds. We made it a priority to look at that piece of property and see what we can do to get it back on the tax rolls, not from the enterprise group standpoint, but from the private sector. We've had about a dozen volunteers working on this now, Brandon being one of them, by the way, which you'll all have to decide who's going to replace Brandon. Looking at our neighborhood over there, the Armory Arts Village, and what can we do to develop that Acme corner and the Zorman-Clark property. We've had several clients looking at not only our property, but Arch 634, but their big question is, what are you going to do with Acme? How does it, because the way that property works, it's kind of an L shape that goes back behind Arch 634. Can we use it for parking? How's ingress and egress going to work? So working with the EPA, they've allowed us to reprogram some money that has to be spent before October 1st. I think we're just about done with about a 15-page prospectus on that piece of property that we'll be able to use with developers to actually show them topographically what we can do on that site, where the stormwater has to go, how we can deal with some of the retaining walls, because if you've ever walked on that property, if you'd like to, the Acme site has about 3 or 4 different tiers from street level all the way down to the railroad and the river. We have to be able to show a developer what they can do with that property without taking up the cement cap, if you will, which is one of the things that we really want to focus on, is not to start disturbing the soil that's underneath. And consumers, you all know about, I think we've closed out the Jackson County Brownfield participation in that, and that project should be done here relatively quickly. Another whole part of our world is our skilled workforce. You know, JAMA and the Academy for Manufacturing Careers does a lot with adults. We don't get quite so much attention for what we do with school-age children. This year, the I Can Make It camp, which is 4th through 6th graders, had its best year ever. 74 registrants. They spend a week out at Lake Crispell working on, during the day and in the evening, projects where they can actually apply math and science principles to building a project, and so they can see how they apply to the real world in making things. This has been tremendous in filling not only their practical real-world experience, but getting people more interested in sometimes careers that maybe the Career Center itself promotes and educates for, so that one of the challenges we have is filling the funnel for skilled workforce for our manufacturers, and getting children to understand why they're learning math, why they're learning science, and how it applies to how things are built is extremely important. And that goes on to our Machining U and our ROV camps, which are junior high and beginning of high school students, which build underwater robots and actually have competitions over at Jackson High School in their pool. A couple other projects I know some of the commissioners are familiar with. The pathway at Leone Development Downtown Authority, which is, that pathway's recently been completed. The Grand River Marketplace, I'm sure many of you have visited our neighbor down across the street here. That was an initial inquiry that came to us, and we worked very closely in helping them understand the city process that they could go through, and kind of hand-holding them in addition to working with city staff so that they get that project up and running in a very short period of time. That project's been doing wonderfully. Their bankers tell me they're very happy with the cash flow that's coming through that project. This is an interesting, I talked earlier about business attraction. One of the things that our office does, we don't spend a lot of time, we don't have a budget that does a lot of business attraction, but we want to make people familiar with Jackson County. And at the MIS race in August, the state traditionally, since it's been the Pure Michigan 400, hosts site selectors here from across the United States. Last year, they spent a little bit of time at the Jackson County Airport. and then went on to the race. This year, those 12 individuals were hosted by 12 different cities across the state. They came on Wednesday evening or Thursday and left on Sunday. We made our case that we, obviously, as one of the host communities, should host one of those site selectors, and we had a gentleman here from Phoenix from Thursday through Sunday, and basically, he didn't have much time to sleep or even relax because we spent a lot of time with him, showing him the county, the assets of the county, a lot of our site and building opportunities. We took him through, actually it was when Machining U was going on, so we took him out at the Career Center and showed him what we do with young people. He actually played golf, not with me, but with my golf ringer, Amy, and a couple of our investors. He was a very interesting guy. He was very down to earth. So he wanted to know a lot about the kind of the character of our community. Pardon me, he said he wanted to get a flavor for what we eat here. So Coney's came up, obviously, and we had quite a nice lunch planned for him one day when we were doing a tour, and he goes, okay, let's just cancel that and go have Coney's. So we did the whole go to the Virginia thing, walk through the kitchen in the back door, and he basically said, I don't think we have anything like this in Phoenix. So for nothing else, he spent a lot of time learning about our community. He was very impressed by it. And then Sunday we spent at the race. And typically what those site selectors do at the race is they spend it in the Pure Michigan suite. But because we have that local flavor and that local context, we had the ability, working with Roger, the president of the track, and Kirk Mercer, that basically took him for a couple hours and saw every piece of that track that the other 11 never got to see. And he was one of those people that, I think he was kind of a race car fan, but really was more interested in how does all this work together as a business. So he got to see how that all worked. And again, it's not that he'll have a project tomorrow, but now he knows who we are. We know something about him. We know a little bit about his family, his grandkids. This is very much a relationship business, so we got to spend 3 days, and I think we have a new friend in the site selection community. And by the way, on that subject, I was very proud of our staff. They had never done anything like this before. In my past, I've done this many times. It's a lot of work when you have the logistics of trying to manage a lot of volunteers, get this person around, make sure, basically he had to be in Ann Arbor a couple times, he had to be in Detroit a couple times, and we had to make our schedule work, and they did a great job, and they hit the ground running. We did a wonderful job. One of the probably most important things we've done over the last year, closed out, if you will, although I'm always working on investor relations, is our campaign. We want to thank the county for being a lead investor in that. But you'll see the numbers there. We have 45 new investors. Our goal was $340,000. We've exceeded that goal. When we talk about our township participation, we've exceeded the 340. We have committed almost $327,000 from the private sector, and we're very pleased with that. The business community has really stepped up in supporting the enterprise group, and we couldn't be happier for the support they've shown us. The one thing I mentioned about the strategic plan, I know you've adopted that, and I've been asked to serve in a role with Kent on that issue. We're going to be meeting next week to talk about some of the things that we need to focus on as a priority. One of the big things, and I think there'll probably be a role perhaps for Region 2 as well, is where do we grow in the future? The Technique project was a perfect demonstration of where do we put the next 100,000 square foot plant in this community that has 80,000 pound truck road, that has fiber, water, sewer. Where in the county is our plan for that? We have a comprehensive plan. We can look at zoning, but some of the infrastructure issues are really important. So one of the things that I want to talk to Ken about and to Region 2 is how do we fit that in the strategic plan as far as not necessarily going out and buying the property and putting in the water and sewer, but at least know what our plan is for prioritizing parts of the county. Where are those pieces of property that are for sale? How much is it going to cost to get water and sewer to them? Because I don't want to lose the next Technique to the neighboring county or to northern Indiana because we haven't done our homework. So that's going to be one of the priorities we talk about when Kent and I sit down next week to start working on creating that coordinating council and the strategic plan. Well, thank you for your time, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Tim. And Chairman Chatwa.
Tim, in 2010, we put forward that there were many obstacles to businesses being involved in job creation or retention in the state of Michigan. Can you describe the advantages in 2014 of being a business coming to Michigan and why you'd want to come here versus the previous environment we were in?
You know, and I hate to go down the political road, but you know, that question begs a somewhat political answer. And I think one of the things I heard, and this is really important why we do these site selector meetings, if you will. There was two people there, and actually about half of them I've known from my previous history, but they both said a couple things. The change in the property tax, the pro-rata down, if you will, the phasing out of the property tax, and the right to work. And the reason they brought that up, not necessarily because they're anti-union or because unions have proven to be a bad thing over time. Their point was we work with clients who have this mindset. And in many cases, our clients said, we eliminate right-to-work states, not we eliminate Michigan, or if you're not a right-to-work state, excuse me. And so they said a lot of times we have projects that, you know, it may be the best location might be Michigan, or it might be another, it might be Ohio. But if you're not a right-to-work state, we eliminate you right off the bat. And one person even said to me when we were sitting at the race, having breakfast actually, he said, if it wasn't for that change in legislation, I would not have even come here. I wouldn't have even wasted your time or your resources to be able to come here and learn more about the state because I have so many clients that fit in that category, I would have felt would have been disingenuous. So when you talk about state business climates, Steve, that really becomes the issue. The way that process works when you're looking at business attraction is we're thrown in with everybody. And so at a very high level, they start to eliminate states based on some very broad categories, and our property tax, personal property tax, and right to work were two of those issues that have changed significantly, and at least given us a shot to be on a list. That's not going to be the deciding factor because as you work down, maybe it's skilled workforce, or maybe it's the right site, or what are the right incentive at the local level. But at the 30,000 foot level, that's been a big difference for us.
Commissioners, any other questions? Hearing none. Tim, thank you.
Thank you. I'll find out how to get out of here.
Youth Center. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Patrick Grube. I'm the director at the Youth Center. I've submitted my third quarter report. You should have that in front of you. Through the third quarter, our average capacity on detention was 24.4 beds with a capacity of 24, so we were over. Good news, currently we have 19. That's a low number that we haven't seen in a while. That was on Friday. I thought for sure, but over the weekend we'd pick up some more, but we're still at 19. So. Treatment, we had 7. I gave you some additional information on average length of stays. The first one for juveniles was 19.5 days. Waivers, those are kids that are being charged in the adult system. Their average length of stay is 148.8 days. And if you combine the total, their average length of stay then for everybody is 24.3. We've had 295 intakes, 259 were males, 36 females, and 11 waivers total. Currently, we have 5 waivers. Some big news from the Youth Center. Our audio and video systems have been antiquated for a very long time. By licensing, we have to have an audio system out at the Youth Center. We put out bids for that, and it was over $60,000 for that. So we started to look for different ways to fund that, and we were able to fund it without any expense to the Child Care Fund or the General Fund through grants. And that's my report.
Patrick, back to the population count. Are these, well, the numbers are 24 residents in detention and 7 in treatment. Do we rent beds out at the center or not, and how many of those?
We do take in if we're not over capacity. So if we're at 21, we don't rent because we'd have to kick them out if somebody came in from our county because our county takes first. So even though we have agreements with other counties to take them, we've had no space to do that.
Okay. Julie.
Thank you. You mentioned the audio and video systems. Was there some collaboration done with the intermediate school district?
Yes.
Thank
They helped us, they sent us a grant writer. They wrote a letter for us of support, so they did an excellent job of helping us.
And could you please explain to the commission how and why the Intermediate School District is so directly involved?
The Intermediate School District runs our school program at the youth center. We have school year-round. Summer, it's run through Title I-D funds. We hire teachers and we do that, but during the regular school, ISD provides the teachers. JPS provides the parapros.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, and this will be my last time addressing you as the director. I think you've all met Jeremy. He will be taking my place, so it's been a pleasure, and thank you.
Region 2 Planning. Grant.
Good morning. The process for updating the solid waste management plan, we actually found out that what the DEQ wants us to do is to amend the plan rather than an update, but the process is exactly the same, and we can use the update form for the notice of intent and the resolution that I've prepared and is included in your agenda packets moving forward. So that will start the process. All we'll need to do is fill the representative from the industrial waste generator, and we can get moving on the project. So I would just ask you to approve the signature of the notice of intent form and the accompanying resolution to the full board so that we can get started. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we can do that in one fell swoop, I think, which would be the notice of intent and the resolution. So if we could have a motion.
I'll move to approve those.
Support.
Motion
Or
and
forward them, you know.
correct. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Administrator Controller, Leonie Tapp.
Actually, I have really nothing additional to add to this unless Commissioner Rice does. It's pretty straightforward. We would be a conduit for a grant for Leone Township.
I would make the motion to move Resolution 913.32 onto the full board.
Support.
Motion and support. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. We're down to other business, being claims. Someone can move the claims. They, I think, made their way down.
I'll make a motion to support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Claims are paid. You have the other minutes, the October reporting schedule, fairly lengthy. And back to public comment for 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes of public comment. Kenny, you can eat up 3 of the other 5 you wanted. Okay, hearing none. Committee member comments. Hearing none, we're adjourned. Oh, Dave.
I guess the other thing I'd like to say is if you remember the picture in the fair report with the pedal tractor pull, that semi can hold adults. So, and I did challenge some people this year to a pull, and they never showed up. So I didn't have to get in it. But next year we're going to make sure some adults get in that. So yeah. Next year, election year, they'll all get in. Oh, yeah.
That's right, they'll all want it.
Yeah, we can attach a trailer to it to haul you know what. Okay, no other comments. We are adjourned.